In this video, I'm going to explain to you why you need less, maybe even a lot less financially in retirement than you think you do. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
Let me begin by acknowledging what many of you are probably feeling right now, at least if you were drawn to this video, and that is the thought of retirement is scary. Not the act of retiring, mind you, but the financial aspect of retirement. Overwhelmingly, the people who are drawn to these videos are fine with the act of retirement. In fact, they're actually looking forward to it. I'm talking about the financial aspect of retiring. Frankly, for many people, it doesn't matter how much you've saved, it is never enough. For a percentage of you watching this video, that's absolutely true. You need to do a little bit more work before you're ready to retire. But for many of you, you're ready, you just don't feel like you're ready. Let's get into it, but before we do, I'll be out shortly with a video entitled How to Set a Retirement Budget in 15 Minutes or Less. This is a topic that people are supremely passionate about on this channel, so I decided to put one together for you. Frankly, I'm just putting the finishing touches on the spreadsheet now, and then I can film the video. So make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted when that and other videos come out. All right, let's go. First, when you think about retirement income, if you're like most people anyway, you use your day before retirement income as a benchmark. Benchmarking is entirely human. We do it when we haven't done something before, so we look for clues. But in the act of retirement, it's less relevant than you think. Let me explain why. If your income during your working years was, say, $50,000 per year, then anything less than $50,000 would seem like it was going to be a struggle. We'll use $50,000 as the example in this video because that's the average income in this country as one approaches retirement. But frankly, it doesn't matter if you made $25,000 or $150,000, the math works out the same way. For those of you who have children, frankly, if you're like me, you want the best for your children, but the best costs a lot of money. There are two types of financial costs to being a parent: expense costs and opportunity costs. The expense cost is the actual cash outlay that you spent as a parent. Food, clothing, camp, entertainment, even weddings, as an example. This doesn't count the bigger house to house the family, 2 cars because the parents can't be in 2 places at one time, and a list of other expenses that wouldn't exist if you didn't have children in the picture. The other cost, opportunity cost, is simply what you would have done with the funds had you not spent the money on your family. Most of these costs usually happen before retirement and they're done. For example, in retirement, you probably don't need a 4 or 5 bedroom house for those of you that have one. I'm not saying that you can't have one or shouldn't have one in retirement. Some people keep the same house that they raise their family in all through retirement. But do you absolutely need that house? Probably not. Next, throughout your working life, you contributed something called payroll tax or FICA. 6.2% of your income up to $160,200 went into Social Security, the Social Security fund. 1.45% went into the Medicare fund. That had no cap, by the way. That continued to go up past $160,200 to whatever you actually earned. But most of you didn't earn more than $160,200 in any given year. That meant that 7.65% of your income came out in the form of payroll tax, FICA. If you're self-employed, that number is double because the employer matches these numbers. But let's assume for the purpose of this video that you worked for someone else and they took care of the other half. So to start off with, when you retire, you don't have a paycheck, so you don't pay the 7.65% in payroll tax anymore. At some point, you also start collecting Social Security. Maybe not right away, maybe right away. That depends on your individual situation. But the reduction of payroll taxes and the provision of Social Security is a powerful combination. Along the same lines, if you are a frequent contributor to a 401k or an IRA or something else similar, those contributions also stop. For the purposes of this video, let's assume that you contributed 10% of your income. This means that equivalent 10% of your income no longer goes away from you into your retirement account. And frankly, that retirement account may provide cash flow for you either now or in the future. Again, like Social Security, profoundly powerful. Between FICA and contributions to your 401k, 17.65% of your paycheck was going away from you. You didn't see it when you got paid. So if you earned $50,000 before income taxes, what you actually saw was $41,175 before income taxes. Now that we've identified the real cash flow that you were receiving when you were working, let's talk about the actual expenses that go away or are drastically reduced when you retire. If you own a house at this point, it's either paid off or well on its way. Data suggests that it's about a 50-50 mix. People enter retirement with a mortgage payment versus people who enter retirement without a mortgage payment. If you had a student loan outstanding, the same is probably true. A lot of you will have your student loan paid off. If you don't, you're well on your way and almost done. Children have a variety of big expenses that you pay for, and those are probably largely done. I'm talking about, depending on your philosophy, college, weddings, and other big expenses that you pay for as they're making their way to adulthood. Those big expenses are probably just about over for most of you. The sole exception is healthcare. This actually goes up, not down, in retirement, but it's not as scary as you think it is. And I'll explain why in the last point when we cover this off in detail. I'll also give you a free resource which will help you break down the exact costs that you will probably incur in retirement in the various categories that you will spend money in. Let's talk about automobiles. This is the Trojan horse of expenses in retirement. Yet the discussion that comes next is a big one because an automobile represents freedom, particularly in late-stage retirement. Here's the truth. Most retired couples don't need two automobiles in retirement. Why? Because they do a lot more together in retirement than they ever did during the working years. And if they don't, one can take the car, the other can be picked up by the friends they're having an activity with, or take an Uber or a taxi. Now you're saying we always had two cars during our adult lives. Yes, because you needed to split up. One person went to one job, one went to another, or one went to a job, one ran the activities with the kids. You needed two cars because you were going in opposite directions. But the fact is, a car is a financial Trojan. It just sits there most of the time. It looks the same today as it did yesterday and as it will tomorrow. I'm not talking about the car payment. Many retirees even pay cash for their car, and sometimes they buy them gently owned. I'm talking about upkeep. I'm talking about the cost of maintenance, insurance, the cost of parking. It costs more to park two cars than it does to park one. It costs more to maintain two cars than it costs to maintain one. You get the point. Next, discretionary spending is scalable in retirement. It really wasn't so scalable when you were working unless it was an emergency. Discretionary spending is the stuff that you spend money on that you don't really need to spend on. I'm talking about vacations, designer clothes, and other upgrades in life. The great thing about discretionary spending is that it is in fact discretionary, and in retirement, it's even more so. You can replace the spending with free or nearly free activities. Think about the pandemic. People could not spend money, so they were building their cash reserves. What happened when it was all over? Americans went crazy when it came to spending money. Now, here's the thing about crazy. If you talk to people about that time in their lives, they are generally polarized. Many, myself included, hated the idea of being constrained inside. They get their energy from being around people. Others, however, myself included again, enjoyed the extra time that they had because they didn't have commute time. They enjoyed spending more time with their family and engaging in family activities that they had not engaged in years. It was a general sense of family first that hasn't existed for 75, maybe even 100 years. We had both of our children at home living with us during the pandemic, and we probably finished over 100 games of Clue, Catan, and Monopoly. We engaged in projects, gathered around the television to watch the world unveiling itself in front of us, and we talked. We really talked. We also planned the perfect post-COVID vacation. We planned it a year in advance. Was it the best vacation ever? Yes, it was, because of the fact that it meant more to all of us. And because we booked a year in advance, we got a great deal. In retirement, you have a similar structure. You don't have to go. You can wait, you can talk, you can observe the world, you can enjoy being with your significant other and friends, and then plan the perfect vacation. Next, you don't need to pay for resources to grow your career any longer. Staying current, or even more than current, advancing your knowledge to grow in your career is expensive. Often that cost falls on you if you want to move past the minimums necessary to maintain your job. If you want to move ahead, you need to be very proactive, and proactivity costs money. Sometimes these costs are tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think about an advanced degree, for example. In retirement, if you want to stay current in your technical field, it's a choice, it's not a requirement, and frankly, most people let it go at that point. In retirement, people expect you to spend less. For example, if you are a sole grandparent out with your kids and grandkids, and it's one of you and 5 of them, generally they will pay. That's not always the case, particularly if you're well off, but as you move out of the working years and they are in the working years, those groups will tend to pay you back for what you did earlier in life. In fact, sometimes your kids will feel uncomfortable if you offer to pay in front of their kids for no good reason whatsoever. Next, biology. You may have a very active next 10 years, maybe even 10 plus years, but at some point you will start to slow down. Not horribly so, but by age 75, maybe by age 75 or 80, spending becomes much more subdued because you're doing less. Your energy level is a little lower. You want to stay in the community. You don't want to branch out. It's normal. By the way, it's not the age itself. I know people in their 90s who have dynamic energy. I will say that's an exception, but they do exist. It's the energy that I'm talking about. And for most people, that mark is between 75 to 80. Let's talk about the one cost that does go up. This is healthcare costs. T-Rowe Price put out a report in June of this year. If you're watching this video years in the future, that's June of 2023. And in the report, it said the average family in retirement spends $318,000 on healthcare costs. This is on top of what's covered by insurance like Medicare, so this is true out-of-pocket expenses related to paying for your healthcare in retirement. Now, that's a big number, but it needs to be taken in context, because if you take it out of context, it is a very frightening number. First, this isn't a one-time bulk payment. If you paid it all at one time, the expense would be unmanageable. It's paid out over your entire retirement. By the way, if you prepaid your cable costs all at one time for the next 30 years, that would be $87,000. That assumes $150 per month with a 3% annual growth in the cost of cable. Next, Medicare costs with prescription drug coverage accounts for between 70 and 81% of annual health care spending. So recognize that your annual healthcare costs, for the most part, will be predictable, budgetable expenses that you pay for over time, not at a point in time. I've included a link to the T-Rowe Price article in the description below. The article demystifies the big number and gives you solid practical advice on how to manage your healthcare expenses in retirement. If you like this video, check out that video, 6 Big Purchases Retirees Almost Always Regret. The video has 1.3 million views, at least at the time of the filming of this video, perhaps more by the time you watch this video. Also, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted when my next video comes out. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.